Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
But your loyal customers will forgive mistakes if they know that you truly care about them.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. So you are not hearing Molly's voice once again, and I promise you, we're not going to make that a habit. Molly had a prior engagement today, and we were debating whether to have this podcast or reschedule it, and we all decided to move forward with it because the guest is a really cool guest, and you're about to hear a really cool interview with a guy who has created an entire business out of customer service and teaching it and talking about it and consulting on it. Bob Pacanovsky is a speaker and a trainer and has been an entrepreneur many times over since the 80s, I believe. He has owned restaurants. He has owned catering and events, a catering and events company, and is now a full-time speaker and trainer on the subject of customer service. And we had a pretty wide-ranging interview. And the reason I really like Bob and about the topic in particular is because it's something that, well, we definitely talk about it a lot at the law firm here. And when I think about running a business and delivering a product or a service, and it's something that I talk about with my clients too, those that succeed, businesses that grow and scale and evolve and endure, are ones that are able to connect with their customer on an emotional level, ones that are able to create an experience for the customer. And we talked about it in this interview about the fact that spending money, that's an emotional decision. And you can spend your money anywhere. You can hire any lawyer. You can hire any speaker or trainer or buy a burger from any burger place. The reason that, whether you realize it or not, that you spend your money where you do is because you feel a connection. You feel a positive connection with the person or place that you're spending your money. In most cases, I believe that. And I believe that the ones that have been around for a while have created the delivery of their product or service around your emotional connection with them. And I know that's a little esoteric, and sometimes it's hard to put that into practical use and practical terms. But the easiest way to do that, I think, and again, I mentioned that here, so I won't talk about it too long in this intro, is put yourself in your customer's shoes and feel what they feel when they see what you give them. And by the way, ask around and ask them how they feel. So one thing that we do at my firm is every time a matter closes, I send an email from me to the client asking them how they felt about our service. There's tons of lawyers out there, and a lot of them are pretty good at what they do. But I don't know how many of them ask that question of their client. And I don't know how many of them take to heart as much as we do what the response is from that client. And I'm not saying that to toot our own horn. We have failed a lot and we will fail a lot in the future, but we get a lot of things right. And a lot of the ways that we improve only because our clients have told us, hey, you've done these things right. You've done these things wrong. This is how I felt when this happened. I felt great when I received this thing in the mail from you. I felt lousy when I got a bill that I didn't expect. I've been practicing law for 18, 19 years now. And I've had this law firm for going on 7 years. And the day that is today, gosh, that sounds silly. Today's, the way we deliver our service to our client is the total aggregate result of the day-to-day learning experiences of those years, which we really try to take seriously in the sense that there's a lot, and again, I talk about this here, so I won't belabor the point. There's a right way to fail. There's a right way to learn. And I say to our business clients, I say to my employees, I say to my friends, fail correctly. Learn from every one of them and make that a process. Meet with your team, write it down, visualize how it should have gone, visualize the steps that you're going to take next time, and build those steps into your processes going forward. That's a really important part of creating and designing and implementing a really great client experience. Bob and I talked about that here, and enjoy this episode, folks. I really enjoyed interviewing Bob, and I hope you enjoy listening to us. Thanks. Robert Pacanovsky, or Bob. Bob is what you'd prefer to be called. I assume it started as Robert, and then at one point it turned into Bob. Fair statement?
Almost. It actually got reversed.
Stop it. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's always been Bob.
Okay.
Well, I mean, formally, it was always Robert.
Okay.
But then when the third name on my event and catering business was Robert J.
Okay.
Because J is my middle initial.
That was the name of the catering business,
Mm-hmm.
Robert J?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because at the time we were talking about this, and my signature was always on every event.
Yeah.
So our logo looked like a signature. So it was Robert J. Events and Catering. And so then it became Robert for a while, but now it's back to Bob.
Okay. How long did you have the catering business?
So that was 15 years. I've been an entrepreneur for over 24 now.
Yeah.
About 15 of them were in the event and catering world.
What'd you do before that?
So owned restaurants.
Interesting.
2 restaurants. One worked, one didn't.
Around here, Cleveland?
Akron.
Okay.
And I tell people it was the most expensive and best lesson I ever learned.
How so?
Well, because in the restaurant business, it's all about that day to day.
Yeah.
And we, in our infinite wisdom or lack thereof, 1994 we opened up our first restaurant, took off really well, and then in our infinite wisdom or lack thereof, we decided to not only open a second restaurant,
Yeah.
but build it from the ground up.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we made the mistake that most business people make is we're undermarketed and undercapitalized.
Mm.
And it only lasted a year. It was a tough lesson to learn, but out of it really came my drive to get better.
Right.
And more importantly, how to learn. Because as a young entrepreneur, No one can tell me anything.
Right.
I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
Well, that knocked me down a number of pegs, enough that I then started to go and reach out to business associates who became coaches for me and said, help.
Yeah.
And they did.
It's always interesting to me, Bob, to meet young entrepreneurs who approach their business as though it cannot fail and as though they know exactly what they're doing. And I'm a business lawyer, and I counsel startups pretty much every day. And when they're here, they are a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more realistic because they're here to speak with someone who knows more than they do. But when you talk to some of them with non-lawyers in the room, and they're talking about their business plan, and it is nothing but confidence, and that's great. Confidence is important, but there is definitely an overconfidence, and sometimes. And I think that you have to have that. You have to have confidence while at the same time welcoming failure and expecting that it will be there. I assume that you were really good with failing.
Oh, most definitely.
Like in the sense that you, well, I know for a fact that you were, because you've bounced back and you've reinvented yourself a few times, and you didn't just go back to working for somebody else. You continue to be a business owner. So you had to be good with failing.
Right. And no one likes it. I mean, that was a crush to my ego, family and friends, and, because no one likes to fail.
Right.
But at the same time, I didn't know enough. I mean, I thought I did. And back in my day, I mean, I'm not that old, but back in my day, going to college meant to get some type of, or for me, it was a business degree. So, but I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, they didn't have classes in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So
you walk out and you want to be a business owner. How? I mean, who's helping you? And so that's, I mean, I had some good business knowledge, but I didn't know all the things I thought I did. And it stunk to fail, but it was the best thing that happened to me, because then I was able to learn and how to get better and how to really be a better leader. So
was this right out of college, right out of high school?
So this was actually about 5 years out of college.
Okay.
So I got out of college, went into the real world, worked, enjoyed what I was doing. I actually started this back in 1994, believe it or not, in the pizza business. Growing up, I had two uncles in the Cleveland area who ran pizza stores, and worked for one of them through high school and college. Didn't really think much of it, and got married, and I couldn't find a good pizza. And so I called my uncle, said, "Hey, what's that recipe again?" And he gave it to me, and I tinkered with my own thoughts with it, and started making it at home. And our friends were like, "Bob, this is fantastic. You have got to." I'm like, no, that's okay. I don't want to open my own business right now. And then just the timing was right. And so my wife said, she had a great job. She's like, now's the time. We didn't have any kids. Hey, if you want to do this, try it.
So wait, so what are you doing in those first 5 years after college?
Yeah. So I was working in advertising.
Okay.
And again, I was enjoying it, but I thought, well, gosh, maybe there's something else I can do.
Right. So you start your own pizza place, or you buy one, or you franchise? What's the structure?
So I started mine from the ground up.
Okay. What was it called?
It was called Paparazzi's Pizza.
Ooh, I like it.
And that was 1994.
Yeah.
And it was a 1,000 square foot building in South Akron, and it took off. And like I said, then in 1996, we decided to build a sit-down restaurant, 72-seat sit-down restaurant from the ground up. It was Paparazzi's Pizza and Pasta.
Wow.
And it just didn't work. We just didn't have the right formula and really the right amount of money.
So at the end of the day, did it not? It didn't work because it didn't bring in the money that you needed to pay the bills.
Correct.
Right. So suffered the death of that every business suffers when it dies, right?
But through that, we started doing this thing called catering.
Yeah.
And we would get calls from our customers saying, "Hey, why don't you guys got really good food. Can you cater this?" I'm like, sure, I guess. Now, mind you, again, I have a finance degree. Okay. So I'm not a foodie, never was a foodie. Always was a business person. But I thought I knew how to run a business. And so people were calling me, "Oh yeah, so we'll start doing catering." Mm-hmm. Well, when we lost the restaurant, I was able to go back to my first restaurant. So we lost the second restaurant, and I was able to go back to my first restaurant. I brought a cook back with me.
Okay.
And we said, "Hey, let's try this thing called catering." Didn't really know that much about it. I mean, I've been to a number of catered events, and we were literally going week to week. I mean, we were bringing in enough business to pay the bills. That's it.
Right.
And one of our clients, we put a bid on to do lunch for their trade show for 300 people. And we got it. And I never forget, at the end of that day, they handed me a check for $6,500. I'm looking at this like, wow. And that was able to give us that seed money.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, well, so how do I build this? And so, believe it or not, we answered an ad in the newspaper to put a bid to become a preferred caterer at that time was the Inventors Hall of Fame in Akron. And we got it. And so here we're now a preferred caterer for the Inventors Hall of Fame. It just opened up a few years prior to that. Again, just trying to figure this out as we grew. But then I noticed something. I said, well, wait a minute. This whole thing of this unique venue, this is interesting. So I started sending out letters. It was late 90s. Email was still getting down there, but to some different attractions, museums, unique venues, and got turned down left and right. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay. 2001, sent a letter to Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens. Okay. One of the premier attractions, museums in Northeast Ohio. And Alex, I don't know if it was, I believe it was the right place at the right time. The person I met with, we hit it off, and she said, "Bob, I want to give you guys an opportunity." And in April 2001, we became a preferred caterer at Stan Hewitt Hall. And then from there, once people knew we were a caterer at Stan Hewitt, it just started taking off.
Okay, so let's. I've been taking notes so I don't forget to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to keep interrupting because that's what I do.
Good.
So forgive me. Which I'm guessing among your current pieces of advice on etiquette and on customer service includes don't interrupt your podcast guest. But go back to the demise of the pizza business. Okay. You're what? In your late 20s, early 30s at that
30s.
time? Okay.
Early 30s.
Early 30s, Bob Pacanovsky is sitting right in that chair right there, and his business is going down. But just before it goes down, you, Bob Pacanovsky, 2019, gets to talk to that guy and give him the benefit of your hindsight. What do you tell that guy?
Great question.
This is before the demise.
Right. Make sure that you have a marketing plan. Make sure you have a solid business plan, that you're hiring the right people, and that you have enough money to get through the lean times.
That's good advice. I'm assuming you're giving that advice because those are hard-learned lessons as a result of the demise of the restaurant business.
Very hard-learned lessons.
Yeah. And the Bob Pacanovsky of his late 20s, early 30s that is going through the demise of the restaurant business, how is he in terms of resiliency? Is he despondent like I would be, like I have been? Is he what's the emotional state of that dude?
Well, and I should say that dude at that time, so So we opened up our second restaurant December 13th, 1996. Still had that date.
Yeah.
It blazoned in my mind. 6 weeks later, January 29th, 1997, our one and only child was born.
Wow.
So for 1 year, Alex, my life consisted of waking up early, hopefully to spend some time with my newborn son,
Yeah.
who's 22 now, going to one restaurant from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., coming home for maybe an hour, hour and a half, seeing my wife and son, going back to the second restaurant, working till 10, 10:30,
Yeah.
and doing it all over again. So it was tough. And I should say, and what's interesting about it now, looking back, is I actually now have a keynote seminar or a keynote address and a seminar based on that first year of business. And it's simply called the 750 Formula for Black Tie Leadership. The reason being is that during that whole year of 1997, I made a grand total of $750. Now I wasn't destitute. I wasn't homeless. My wife was still working, but I had to put all that. I mean, we weren't making enough money in the second restaurant, and so the first restaurant was actually helping put money into the company. And so as the owner, as the entrepreneur, I wasn't taking anything.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to take anything. So that was tough ego-wise. That was tough to go in weeks on end knowing, okay, are we going to make payroll? And okay, I can't afford payroll for me.
Yeah.
It's tough.
You obviously had enough resiliency to keep trying. What was the inner monologue in that first year when you were making $750? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it both?
It was definitely both. I mean, I knew I had it in me to do something on my own because I really did enjoy that. And I think during that first year, I just kept putting my head down.
Yeah.
And just working and trying new things. And will this work? Will this promotion work?
Right.
Will this menu item work? How do we cut costs? All those things that an entrepreneur tries to do to try to salvage the business.
Right.
So when it didn't work, it definitely hurt. And then I had a choice to make. Okay, do I go back and do I get a job, which was fine. But I also knew that I had this thing in the catering aspect of it that's like, you know what? Let me try this. Let me give this one opportunity because I thought it could work because I could see the response that we were getting from people that we were doing this.
Yeah.
And then I had a gentleman who wanted to come back with me. And it seemed, so I said, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I should say this because it's been true every step along the way, is my wife has been fantastic. I mean, she has been a true supporter of our business. She, her and I worked together in our business some years later on, and she was always there. And interestingly enough, every step that I've made, Alex, every business that I've opened up, my wife has given the blessing, with the exception of one. Guess which one?
Is it the current one?
No, the one that didn't work.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she's like, I don't know. She's like, this doesn't feel right. And I was pretty stubborn. And I said, no, you know what? This is going to work. And she's like, okay. And it didn't work.
Yeah.
But every other one, she has said, yes, I think this is the right move for you. And it's worked, except that one.
Yeah. So, okay. So you've got the pizza restaurant, and then you open a second restaurant with more seating, and that one goes down in flames. Is the first one still operating at that time?
It is.
But it's funding the second one.
Correct.
And so you had to close down the second one so it didn't bring down the first one.
Right.
Right. And then you start your catering business. The first restaurant is still operating at that time.
It is. And so that was 1998. And so we kept that going for about another year, doing both restaurant and started catering.
And then at some point, it's all catering.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So about 2000, probably end of 1999 into 2000, we said, you know what, we're going to do all catering.
Okay. And then so then you close down the first restaurant as well.
Yep.
that catering business operated out of Akron
Yes,
as
correct.
well.
Yep.
And obviously you had a few big name clients early on, which was helpful. So, and then you operate the catering business for the next 15 years.
Correct. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
How big does it get, employee-wise, geographically?
So we get as large, so we cover all of Northeast Ohio. We grew to that. We were able, now I will say also that what we chose to do was off-site catering, which means we never played a home game.
Okay.
We took everything on the road. So every venue we went to, whether we went to a business, to a museum, to whatever, it was all on the road. We grew to the point where we could do on any given day 4 events simultaneously in any part of Northeast Ohio on any given day. So we had enough staff for, 4 staffs, for rentals. I mean, the whole works.
Yeah. Which is really interesting because the 2 businesses before that were totally stationary.
Right.
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 And you obviously enjoyed the schlepping your stuff around all over Ohio.
Well, I don't know if enjoy's the right word.
Yeah.
But however, we were working in some pretty cool places. I mean, think about it. Stan Hewitt.
Yeah.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
Hale Farm and Village. We're up in Cleveland at the Natural History Museum, the Crawford Auto Museum, the Glidden House. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I mean, probably during the course of the 15 years, we were probably in over 60, 70 different unique venues. You name it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to be at those places.
Right.
And so I think that aspect was the overriding aspect of, we knew we had to set up everything. We knew that we had to bring everything, but not too many people can do an event at the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that was the cool part about it.
So we talked about failures of the restaurant. What were some failures in the catering business, and what'd you learn from them?
Yeah. So I think it all starts with people. And I had a great staff. I mean, our staff, Alex, worked part-time as needed, worked 2 or 3 times a month, doing very hard work. I mean, and they were fantastic. And I give a lot of credit to them. However, some people didn't work out. And probably one of my biggest thoughts that I wish I could have done differently was to get the wrong people out sooner. As an entrepreneur, you want to try to make it work.
Yeah.
They're great people. Just wasn't a good fit. And I probably spent a little bit too much time seeing if they could fit into the system.
Yeah. I call that addition by subtraction.
Right.
Right. But you don't know that going in. When they present for hiring, they got a great resume, they've got a great appearance, they tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
Your point, though, is that you could have let them go sooner than you did.
Yes. Yeah.
In some cases.
Right. And I tried, to sit down. So, okay, here's kind of the direction.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't it was just a very small amount of cases that it just didn't work. Now, these were key leadership people, so it made it a little more challenging. But as I was able to grow, I was able to let go more and to delegate more, which was huge because, again, I couldn't be in 4 places at one time. I hadn't invented the cloning process. I still don't have it invented. So I had to put good people in place, and I had really good people in place.
Let's stay on that topic for another minute or two because I have a client right now. A good friend of mine actually runs a decent size operation and has a senior person there that just can't. This person has screwed up 4 times. 2 of those times were significant. And this is a good friend of mine. So this is a part legal issue and part, Alex, give me some friendly advice as a fellow business owner and someone I've known for 20 years issue. And I've been reflecting on it because, and I love talking about this case with another business owner. It seems like there are definitely 2 paths that any decision can make: the decision to fire or the decision to keep this person on board. And one's good and one's bad. In each case, it's possible that you let go somebody that you could have turned around, somebody that's been with you for a really long time, someone that's given you a lot of loyalty and a lot of successes over the years, someone who happens to be struggling, maybe in their personal life, maybe with substance abuse, you don't know, right? But it's somebody who, notwithstanding the fact that they've screwed up 4 times, you want to believe that with good help and guidance and fellowship and some alone time, maybe reducing their responsibilities, it is possible that they can be redeemed.
Correct.
It is equally possible that you will be looking back. This is what I told my friend. It is equally possible that you'll be looking back on this moment saying, man, I had the chance to let him go. I thought he could be redeemed. I thought I would stick with him just one more time, and he screwed something up so bad, now I'm defending a lawsuit. Right?
Wow.
And I really, Bob, here's the advice that I gave him, and I want to get your thoughts on it. It really comes down to what's the story that you want to believe here. And who is telling that story? Is it somebody that's conservative? Because the most conservative thing to do here is cut this person loose, and then the story will be, I dodged a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the conservative approach.
Mm-hmm.
The less conservative approach, but probably the more humane one, maybe the more empathic one, is he's doing the best he can, and I believe in him, and I can manage the exposure, the liability. I can limit this person's damage that they can do, and I can stick with them. I can help them with the problems they're having. And putting them out on the street right now might be the easiest thing for me to do, but the hardest thing for this person. And it'll definitely help them speed their way down to an even worse place than they're in now.
Okay.
So the advice is, the unemotional, most conservative approach is let this person go. Is that the approach you want to take? Is that the story you want to tell? And it's probably not the legal advice, by the way, is let him go.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
That cuts off your exposure immediately. Let this person go and be done with it. But he didn't just come to me as a lawyer. He came to me as both a lawyer and a friend and a fellow business owner. Anyway, let me stop babbling. What do you think in that scenario? What's been your experience, and what's the advice you give to this person?
So I think it's a little bit of both of what you said, because for me, I'm that person who wants to do the benefit of the doubt, who wants to give that, who wants to help. And I've done that. But to how many times does it happen? Now, I was never at that stage where there was a lawsuit, because that for me would have been a very easy decision to make. Like, hey, I'm sorry. I am helping you all that I can, but this exposure of this lawsuit is far greater.
And to be clear, there isn't currently what he was trying to do is avoid the possibility of one by just letting him go because he might screw up something in the future. Right.
Well, which is something that as an entrepreneur you have to look at, because it's your brand.
Right.
At the end of the day, one of the things for me is, so that's where the counsel comes in for me, of looking at some of the coaches that I put in play. But one of the key counsels, Alex, that for me that was a key was, what was my staff saying? One of the things as an entrepreneur, as that owner, is typically, not always, but typically, and more so in a small company, you're sometimes the last person to know, because no one wants to talk to the owner about this, because, and yes, I mean, I didn't know everything. There were some inklings of things that I could figure out. But then when my staff started coming to me saying, Bob, let me tell you what happened. And here's how this person handled this representing your company.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now the perception and reality is now a little further out.
Right.
So yes, I want to give those chances.
Yeah.
However, if it starts becoming that issue where now other people are now seeing the challenges, boy, now it's time to.
Yeah. There's another thing that I find helpful in that situation if you want to get truly unemotional, which again, you have to decide. And it's the hardest thing when you allow your emotions to guide you in an emotional place. Like, this is a friend of yours. Mm-hmm. That's an emotional place.
Correct.
One way to get unemotional is to build a decision matrix, which I do a lot, where you put on the left side what your options are: fire, suspend, limit their responsibilities, put them on probation, right? Whatever. There's probably another 10. And then you do that, you put that along the left side of the spreadsheet, and across the top, you put all the things that are most important to you about what the decision will be, right? Your liability, your morale, right, on the other people, friendship. Well, I guess that would go back to the emotional part. You probably want to leave that off. But the point is, it is possible to be objective by identifying all your options and then rating them according to the things that are most important to you.
Right.
And then also what helps me in those situations, as you just said, is fact gathering and also being transparent.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know,
but let me tell you this, and I think this is one of the challenges that I see a lot today, and as well as what I was doing as an entrepreneur is who do you talk to?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's one of those jobs where I tell people that it's one of the loneliest jobs in the world, and everybody thinks they can do the job better than you.
Right.
So one of the things that I'm passionate about is we need to really be able to train people on how to be better leaders. I think there's a lot of good managers out there. There may be some good bosses. I don't know how many of them are really good leaders, because one of the things that I talk about now is I ask people for a show of hands, how many people have an undergraduate degree in leadership? And no one raises their hand.
Yeah.
And then I ask, okay, so how many classes have you taken in leadership? Not on a graduate level, but on undergraduate. And yet we're bringing people out and wanting them to be leaders. But that matrix is phenomenal. I love that. And I had something similar to that, not to that extent, but I learned that from coaches that I sat down with and said, Bob, this is how you're going to have to do this scenario.
Yeah.
We're missing that.
Yeah, you know who raises their hand in that situation is people who went to West Point or people who received military training.
Correct.
Right. I was just talking to somebody. I can't remember if it was in the podcast, but when you get the resume from someone who you're trying to put into a management position, and you see that they are a former military officer, it's often a good bet that they spent a lot of time learning to be a leader.
Correct. Right.
But who were your coaches back then?
So it was business people that I made different connections with that helped me really navigate those rough waters. Because coming out of that failed restaurant, which also we had to also go into Chapter 11, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
It's tough. So now all of a sudden, and I realized that I couldn't, not that I was a bad leader. I mean, I wasn't a bad leader. I just didn't know enough on how to be a better business owner, how to be a better leader.
Right.
So then I started reaching out and trying to connect with a couple different people just to help get that guidance and that navigation that I needed. Because I knew then that we were going to then just focus on the catering business.
Do you remember what your most impactful books or authors that you read as you were coming up? In addition to talking to people, what were you reading? So
at the time, I was reading a lot of customer service. So there's an author I love by the name of Scott Gross. And Scott is just a phenomenal customer service speaker. And as I was reading him, I was like, wow, boy, this is me. I mean, he's like talking to me because this is exactly the mindset that I had with it. But then, Ken Blanchard's of the world, just a fantastic read. John Maxwell, looking at that, again, that was back in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Do you know the guy who, John DeJulius? Do you know that guy?
I know.
Spa?
Well, I know of him.
Okay.
Yes.
He's got really great. I was at the airport at O'Hare the other day, waiting for my flight, and I actually have been getting my hair cut at John Roberts Spa for years, and he came up in my LinkedIn feed as, you know how they give you
people you should view. Yeah.
And I went and he's got this great video. You guys actually probably have a lot in common. He's a speaker on customer service.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And it's fascinating. And I actually sent around to everyone here his to all my lawyers his one of his videos. Anyway, so you're learning about customer service. You're learning from your failures and your setbacks. And by the way, the reason I keep talking about failure, and I believe strongly in destigmatizing failure. I think failure is a good thing.
Oh, I agree.
Unless it keeps you down.
Correct.
Right? If you are, and you are a successful entrepreneur, that means that you have built up a really great relationship with failure. Failure is your friend.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right? I talk about it constantly. The best thing to do is fail a lot and then write down everything you can. Capture the emotional experience of failure, the factual experience, the objective experience, and get it down, A, so you don't do it again, and B, so you can do it better next time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in our last podcast, I said, if you are talking to a successful entrepreneur and they told you that they didn't fail a whole lot, they're lying to you.
Without a doubt,
they're just not. I mean, you don't get to be a successful business owner unless you failed a lot, I think.
Oh, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, just, for us, I mean, all the times we didn't get the jobs on the event world or the catering world and somebody else did. Those hurt. But then we always look at it, okay, so not all of them, but there were a lot of them that we looked at, okay, so why didn't we get this?
Right.
Maybe it was fact of our price was too high and they were, okay, well, you know what? Okay. Yeah. But, well, no, you know what? It was about this, or it was about this facet of the business that this other company did better.
Right.
Okay. So how do we work on that?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but I'll never forget 2006. Okay. Fast forward 2006. Now we're catering at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, doing a pretty decent job there. At that time, the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, Canton's biggest weekend, is always held that first weekend of August. But the ceremony itself was always on the steps of the Hall of Fame until the Jim Kellys and the Troy Aikmans and all those guys started coming in. Well, 2006, it's still held in the afternoon, the ceremony, which means the evening is free for the induction parties, for the enshrinement parties. So the Hall of Fame was starting to look around and say, hey, could we host these enshrinement parties here? Well, only one team said yes, and it was Harry Carson of the New York Giants. And we got that party. Okay. As well as the night before, Troy Aikman did a VIP party after the gold jacket ceremony back at the Hall of Fame. Okay. So 2006, and we rocked it. So 2007, the Hall of Fame makes a decision that I'll take a step back. ESPN says, you know what, we're going to move the enshrinement ceremonies to the evening to get more TV. So now the parties are going to be held at 10 o'clock. So 2007 comes in, the Hall of Fame says, we're going to host all these parties. Hey, we were the only company to do an enshrinement party in 2006. 2007, we're going to get in. They didn't think we were big enough to handle it. I said, Bob, sorry, but you're not going to be able to do this. Talk about just wow, okay. And you know what? I tell people, Alex, that was the best thing that happened to us.
Right.
Because then we refocused, said, okay, so what can we do in this next year to make them realize that we belong with those other companies? And luckily for us, the company they hired was a national company out of the East Coast, 10, 15, 20 times larger than us. And it didn't work. They didn't do a great job. And then they came back to us in 2008 and said, all right, we want to give you a shot. And we still had a bid against other companies. That year we got four parties. Alex, from 2008 to 2012, we ended up doing 25 of the Hall of Fame induction parties. Wow. But it wouldn't have done if it wasn't for 2007, where we basically failed in 2007.
Gosh, I hear that so much, Bob. It is the learning and the bouncing back and following that fork in the road that creates the later successes. And there's another part of it too that I don't think people talk about enough with failing, and that is that it teaches you at the same time, which is unusual, both humility and fearlessness.
I agree. Right.
And to be able to get back in the ring and stick your neck out again after you've been knocked down that creates muscle memory. And it creates emotional resilience. And there was I read somewhere, I can't remember if it was Sheryl Sandberg or another woman, a well-known CEO that I can't remember if it was her, but she wrote about, it might have been in Lean In that she was writing this. Was that Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In? I don't know.
Yeah, I remember.
That when she was a little girl, she had brothers and sisters, and they would sit around the table, and their father would, during dinner, say, what did everyone fail in today? And they would go around the table, and everybody, if they failed at something, would volunteer their failing story. And then they would vote on who had the most colossal failure. And they got, but it was based on how well calculated the risk was that they took.
I see. Okay.
Right?
Makes sense.
It wasn't just based on doing stupid things.
Right.
It was based on being fearless at the possibility of failing while seeing still a good upside, an upside that was sufficient enough to take the risk.
Right.
And then they would vote on who had the best failure through that lens. But that's how she learned fearlessness, and yeah, that's, it is an important muscle to have.
And I agree. And I think to be an entrepreneur, I kind of call this more of a calculated fearlessness.
Right.
I mean, you just can't be fearless.
Right. Just can't be stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think everything that I've done has been a calculated move. And I'm not one of these guys, and I know you read about them. Oh, I put down 4 credit cards and I maxed them all out. I was down that was never me. I was never that extreme. For me, it was all about being calculated.
Yeah.
And hey, if it works, great. Yeah. If it doesn't, okay, what else can we do?
Well,
and it's been a constant reinvention for me. Well,
and by the way, and then we'll get off of failing. But whenever I give a talk on Cover My Six on how to protect yourself from liability, the United States government and the state of Ohio has made a deal with entrepreneurs in order to advance capitalism. And the deal is this: we will create this entity, this form, this fiction called an LLC. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's not something you can hold in your hands.
Right.
It's not tangible. It is a thing that it is a right that we are going to bestow upon you to encourage you to take calculated risks. And then we're going to create this other thing called bankruptcy. Okay? And all you have to do is not commit fraud, don't commingle funds, and follow a few basic corporate formalities. Okay? And so long as you do that, we will protect your home and your retirement funds and your personal assets so that you are encouraged to go out there and build wealth and take risks and hire people and add to the tax base. And so the fact is that one reason why a lot of business lawyers are in business is because people don't follow those rules.
Right, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of us that help you follow them and help you take those calculated risks. So anyway, take calculated risks and
Amen.
don't be afraid of failing.
That's
right.
I've lived it for 20 some odd years.
Yeah. So you run the catering business for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point you decide, I'm having a lot of fun, but I think I want to be a speaker. Is the chronology right there? Or?
Well, almost.
Okay.
So back up. So we morphed the catering into events.
Okay.
Because what happened, people started coming to us and saying, Bob, you know what? I need a rental company. I need an entertainer. I need a florist. Who do you know? Like, oh, well, call these guys. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. I can do this.
Right.
Yeah, we can do this. So catering morphed into events. Through all this, though, training was really big for me because, again, going back to the venues, those attractions that we mentioned, it was our brand. But anytime we worked at any of these venues, at a museum, we were actually representing first and foremost the museum. So training was really big. And I talked about customer service. So back in 2005, I actually put together so, 1998, 2000, we start the catering company. But 2005 is when I really get serious about training because 2005, while we're doing okay, my staff's getting frustrated with me. Bob, you keep changing the game every time we work. And they said, Bob, we're getting frustrated. So I had all these ideas in my mind, went to a conference, heard somebody, put all these ideas together, and in March of 2005, created this comprehensive 8-hour training program built on customer service, culture, and leadership. And the first half of it, Alex, was devoted to those three things. The second half was the formalized task-oriented training of dining services, how to serve, how to clear, all those things. So we're working at high-end venues. And it took off. I mean, people loved it. I had people come up to me, Bob, I don't get this customer service training in my business. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. Well, fast forward, going through it, and then I'm getting some calls from other companies, in the hospitality world. Hey, can you help us? Yeah, I guess. Then I had a friend of mine say, Bob, you know what? All of your knowledge, you've seen all these events. You've been at all these events, right? Yeah. Bob, I know you know a lot about how to behave and act and speak at an event, the business etiquette of it. Yeah, I guess. Why don't you start that? So I did. And so then while I still had my company at Robert J, Events and Catering, then I started this second company, an offshoot called Robert J Training and Design. And just trying to add a little bit extra income. I'll be honest, that was it, Alex. It was trying to add some little extra income. I enjoyed doing it, but hey, I was focused on this business. Well, the funny thing happened on the way to the forum is I really started to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So much so my wife at the time was working with me and she was our office manager, and I would come back from a training or a seminar, and I hadn't talked to her prior to that, and I walk in the office and she says, boy, that went really well, didn't it? Yes, it did. How do you know that? I can see it in your face. You're beaming. You have this energy. Yeah, I do. And so and I thoroughly love what I did. I love my staff, but I also realized that I didn't own the building. It was my goodwill, it was my name. And I didn't want to make a huge investment. I was 47 at the time. I didn't want to make a huge investment in building a banquet facility and being stuck in debt and whatever. So I actually sat down by myself and I put together what I called my 50 for the future plan and said, what if, or what would it look like in 3 years when I turn 50? And that's one of the things that I had written down was, could I sell my company and look at this career, again, not knowing a lot about it, of being a professional speaker and trainer? And so I wrote it down. and this is what's going to look like. Here's how we're going to do this. And
which is one of the things that you would have told your 30-year-old self when business was crashing. So you're doing this alongside the event planning business.
Correct.
Okay. And so you decide you're going to go full bore into the training and design business.
Right. Speaking. Yep.
Speaking. And so now you're operating both businesses simultaneously.
Correct. Right.
And this is late 2000s.
Yeah, this is 2012.
Okay.
Well, so it was like 2013, starting the second business, leading into 2014.
Okay.
And in 2014, then I'm pretty confident that this is the direction that I want to go. And so I bring my CPA into the fold and talk to him and say, John, this is what I'm looking at, or what are my options out there? What can I do with this business? Now, mind you, go back about 6 months, I got a business valuation done by a company and gave them all my financials, and they sent me back what my business was worth. And I looked at it and I said, no, I can't sell this business. I can't get this. This is not enough money.
Right.
And my CPA said, Bob, don't worry about it. Your brand, your goodwill is worth a lot more than that. And he was right. And how we priced it accordingly. And on my behalf, he started sending out letters of information and talked to a handful of people. And then all of a sudden we landed on the right one.
So you sold the business?
Sold the business at the end of 2014. 2015, I now have a brand new company.
Okay. So this all is really good backstory to how I knew you and how I met you, because I believe you catered a Broadvox party.
We did.
And that's when I first met you.
Yep.
And then a few years later, when we sold Broadvox and I started this law firm, I was at a Beechwood Chamber of Commerce event, and you and I were co-speakers.
Right. Well, you guys sponsored that lunch that day.
Yeah. I spoke for 2 minutes. You spoke for like 30 or 40 minutes.
Right.
And it was there that I learned how uncouth I was and how I was breaking every rule of class in the book. And oh no, we had not sold Broadvox yet.
Correct, right.
Because I brought you back to Broadvox to give a speech.
Right, to do a lunch and learn.
To do a lunch and learn, right. to teach all of the techies there how uncouth they were. That's right. We were about to sell Broadvox, and we sold it shortly thereafter. And yeah, okay. And so you filled in the timeline. And then fast forward a few years, and lo and behold, you and I are on the board of Cozy together.
Right.
So let's follow that fast forward. So here's today, 2019, and the name of the business is the Black Tie Experience.
Correct. Yes.
And are you the sole Black Tie Experience creator?
I am.
Okay.
I am right now.
And so give me an idea of what if I hire you. Mm-hmm. I can hire you, I assume, to give consultations and give talks to me and to my people. Is that, what are we talking about?
Right. So now what I call myself is I'm a keynote, conference, and corporate speaker.
Okay.
And trainer. So I work with, there's 3 areas of focus. So I help companies build more customer loyalty. Mm-hmm. I help them better develop selfless leaders. And I help them forge lasting impressions. So it's in those areas of customer experience, leadership, and that professional presence, workplace behavior.
Yeah.
And real quick backstory on the Black Tie Experience. So, and I know this is a podcast, you can't see us, but I am dressed in a black tie.
There will be a selfie at the end of
true.
this. We will be. The audience is probably staring at you right now.
All right, awesome.
By the way, let's for those of you who aren't, I'm sitting across from a very crisply dressed Bob Pacanovsky, who's wearing a lovely striped black bow tie and a matching pocket square, neither of which I could pull off for some reason, but would like to one day. So maybe you'll teach me.
I will. So 2015, I sell my company. I sold my name. So Robert J is is out there. So I can't use my name. So I come up with a name of a company, and here's another lesson I learned. I tried to put too many eggs in one basket. I tried to do my speaking, and I do some consulting, and I did some event planning, and I was confusing myself, Alex, and I was confusing my customers.
Yeah.
So I have a friend of mine who is a top-notch speaker. He was one of my coaches to help me with marketing. And this was 2016 now. He said, Bob, what is something about you that is so unique that no one else has? I said, really? I have no idea what is so unique. And then, Alex, out of the clear blue, I said, well, you know what, Jeff? Actually, I take that back. I own 3 black tuxedos. And he paused, just like, what? That was a uniform that my staff wore. I mean, I had a full black tuxedo with the vest, the jacket, the tie, the tuck shirt, everything.
Yeah.
He's like, Bob, that's it. It has something to do with black tie. And we started playing around with it, and I talked to another business coach, and I wasn't too sold on it at first, but then more that I started talking about it, and then it's like, wait a minute. Because as I started going back and started thinking about all the training that I did for my staff, it all related to creating this experience, this black tie experience for our customers and our guests. And so now I show up in so I bring my 3 tuxedos with me because I put them on. I put other people in my tuxedos. And this bow tie is actually a self-tied bow tie, which I had to learn how to tie. I'm 53 years old, and up until 2 years ago, I had no interest and no idea how to tie one.
You know, the thing of it is, so first of all, I love the name because it evokes an obvious emotion and an obvious image. Everyone, when people think black tie, they think classy, right? So I love the direction you took with that. Secondly, I love that you can pull it off because not a lot of people can pull off a bow tie.
Right.
In fact, I can think of maybe 3 people I know that can do it without looking silly. And one of them is a repeat guest on this podcast, and running for city council president of North Royalton, and that's Paul Marnichek.
Well,
you know Paul?
Right. Well, or he works for Cozy.
For GCP and Cozy,
Right,
that's right.
Exactly, yeah.
That dude can rock a bow tie.
I know, you're right.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, too, so I don't know, Bob, because I wonder if you're hampered by it being the black tie experience, because I think one of the great things about a bow tie is that you can play around with patterns. Like Paul does. Paul puts festive, seasonal, holiday specific themes into his bow ties. Do you do it, or is it all black tie for you?
Well, right now it is black tie, but what it is, as you see from this tie, and so I have one just purely black tie. But everything else has a pattern to it, has a style to it. I have black and red. I have black and silver because I don't, want to be that guy. Now, I have tried to pull off like blue bow ties. Yeah. And people come up to me like, what are you doing? That's not the black tie experience.
Right.
All right, you got a point there, but still.
It's hard to argue with that, right?
So, I could pigeonhole it, but right now it's working.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to extract some freebies out of you.
Yes.
Okay. And so because I happen to be sitting in the room with someone specializing in creating the ultimate customer service experience. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you.
So help me do that. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I am a small to mid-sized business, industry agnostic. Let's say that I have between 5 and 10 years of existence. I have, I'm in the service industry. Okay. Okay. It is purely coincidental that I've just described the Gertzberg law firm. But it is not coincidental that you and I both really put a premium on the client or customer experience. Right. So I am asking this question as much for my own edification as for the benefit of the 7 billion listeners that are tuning in right now. Awesome. So Bob, what give me the low hanging fruit? What is the obvious thing that I should be doing from a customer service standpoint that most of my competitors probably aren't?
Okay. So I'll start that by asking you a question, Alex.
Yeah.
So what business are you in?
I am in the people business.
That's a great answer, Alex, because that's the answer that I ask people
Right.
the most, and they say whatever business they're in.
Right.
But I firmly believe that this starts out with, and here's what I call this, is, see, because I think customer service, we all know what customer service means, and this customer experience is a buzz phrase right now. We're always, I have to deliver the customer experience. What does that mean? Well, I think there's a missing link, and that missing link is what I call the power of hospitality. And a definition of hospitality is that art, and that's the key word, the art of making a personal connection to someone else, which means first and foremost, we have to be in the people business. You have a lot of competition. We all have competition. We buy from people. How well are your people trained? Do they have the vision of the Gertzberg law firm or whatever vision of the company? What are the core values of your company? And what core values do they have? Do they mesh together? See, I tell people all the time this. We have the big stuff down pat. Okay, your product or service, that's the big stuff. I firmly believe that it's the little details that each and every business can do that's going to make the biggest difference. Your law books are the same,
right,
as everybody else's. Okay, I mean, the laws don't change. It's what trust do your people have in your team, and how are your people treating those prospects first and foremost to then move them to the client stage. I firmly believe it has to be making that personal connection. They have to care and respect and consider who these people are.
Yeah.
And I think we meaning corporate America, we go after the service part first.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have an acronym, and in fact, it's my tagline, and that word is the word lasts, okay? Because my tagline is creating an impression that lasts, okay? So here's my acronym for the word lasts. The L stands for how you look, okay? Dress code, body language, appearance. How do you show up? The A is for how you act. How do you act in meetings? How do you act in dining situations? How are you acting in a community event? The first S is for how you speak, emails, social media, phone. The T is for what your tact is. How do you behave? And then the last S is for how you serve. See, we go to the service part first, but I firmly believe, Alex, that we're never going to get to the customer experience part, that personal connection, if we don't know how to look the part, act the part,
right,
and speak the part.
I love that acronym. I think it's fantastic. And I love that the service part goes last. What I tell my people, there's 13 of us here right now, is that the 13 of us here are 13 of about 10,000 in Cleveland. And our clients can go to anyone they want.
Correct.
And every one of them can practice law within a margin of error that is not that great. There are a few outliers that deliver exceptional results 100% of the time.
Correct.
Right? But for the most part, we're part of this saturated field of practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
Buying and spending money are emotional decisions, and
Correct.
you make emotional decisions based on the experience that you have there. And so those emotions don't just come from that result.
Correct.
They come from what you perceive, what you hear, what you feel in your heart. And when you put those components in the way that you did, how you act, how you look, how you talk, that creates the experience as much, if not more, than just the result that you deliver.
Absolutely. I'll go one step further. And this is really what the black tie experience is all about, is how do you make people feel differently about your product or service than they ever have before? Right. Because I believe really what you want to do is you want to create brand ambassadors for your business, because not only do we buy, we have emotion, but I firmly believe, Alex, that we buy stories.
Yeah.
First and foremost. Now, benefits and features are great, but we buy stories. Oh, you know what? Oh, hey, Bob, you know what? Gosh, I'm having a legal challenge. Joe, let me tell you about this company.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what they did for me. Let me tell you what they did for my whatever.
Right.
It's the stories because of how you made this client feel that now they're a brand ambassador. And my definition of a brand ambassador is someone who can't wait to tell the story of how you make them feel.
Yeah.
So I ask my clients all the time, how many brand ambassadors do you have? Because that's going to be the key to your success.
And by the way, sorry for interrupting, but that's what I do.
That's okay.
By the way, today, with the internet and social media being as instantaneously blaring to the world about how people feel about you, getting that right is that much more important. It's a lot more important than it used to be.
Absolutely. It's, because now, everybody can be a critic.
That's right.
And hide behind this, this veil.
Yeah. And not only is it easy because of things like Facebook and LinkedIn, it's easy because of things like Yelp, right? Which I cannot understate. There's an entire platform set up for the sole, and Amazon, for the sole purpose of getting people's opinions about a product or service.
Exactly.
That's literally the only and what does that mean? It means that when my girlfriend and I decide what restaurant we're going to Yelp. We're going to TripAdvisor. Right. We're going to one of the things that was set up to extract people's reviews and opinions. So it is so important to take your customer service game to that other level if you want to not just fall into this sea of saturated, providers. Well,
and you're right. And with that being said, you can do an absolutely perfect customer service you could have it. You could go out and have a great meal, or buy a product and go to a retail store, or go to a professional services firm and be satisfied with that service. But something's missing. Something's missing to deliver that experience. And that's the passion that your people have for it.
Right.
And that's where that power of hospitality comes in, because if you don't have that art form on how to make that personal connection, then it's just a transaction.
Yeah.
And on a transaction, we're going to move because someone else is going to give us a better price, a better promotion,
right,
a better product, better people. But your loyal customers will forgive mistakes.
Right.
If they know that you truly care about them.
Yeah. There is an emotional, I guess you would just call it empathy, but there's this process that I talk to my people about. When you record your time and you prepare your invoice, put yourself into the shoes of the person who's reading it. Are there typos in there? Is there sticker shock? Do you feel like someone just punched you in the gut because you didn't expect it to be that much? Is the bill commensurate with the value that they received? Understand on an emotional level how they're going to feel. I guess this goes to the I'm trying to fit this into the lasts. Is the first L look?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess this feeds into the look, right? The perception that they're going to have when they see your work product, when they see you. How are they going to feel? Are they going to feel grateful, or are they going to feel like they just got punched in the stomach?
So I have another freebie for you.
Yeah.
Or because you can use this term.
Yeah.
Because this is what, so one of the things that I talk about, I have So I have 4 principles on how to deliver the black tie customer experience. The third principle is what I call impact points. And my definition of an impact point is it's a subconscious impression before, during, or after the client or customer makes a purchase from you. So everything we do, so that invoice that has typos, that's an impact point.
Right.
The invoice that is shock, how do you buffer that potential shock in your email?
Right.
Say, here's the value that you've received, Mr. and Mrs. Client. But everything we do, Alex, everything in business, so there are impact points every step along the way. Before you buy, during you buy, or during that time frame, and then after to move them to loyalty.
Right.
And so I use this example every time in my seminars is all of us are consumers. When you walk into that restroom of that retail establishment or that restaurant and it's filthy, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Oh boy, I'm not sure if I should do anything here.
Right.
Well, folks, and you said it best. We need to put ourselves in the shoes of our customers. Yeah. And once you start looking at all your impact points, you start realizing this is what the customer sees. But see, we're at times too close to it because because we're working in it all day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can't believe that they just sent me this.
Right. And we're too close to it because we often put our own bias into the thing that we're doing, and we put our own needs into it.
Correct.
The need to make money, the need to have fun, the need to be at a certain place at a certain time. All of those things are important.
Sure.
But the number one reason we're in the service business is to deliver an experience to the client that they're going to rave about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I have probably another 40 questions about how to deliver the optimal customer experience, but I'm not going to ask you them. I'm going to go to your website, which is
BobPacanovsky.com.
And there I will find a way to get a hold of you.
Yes.
And I am able to hire you to do training, to do keynote speaking, consulting, that kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Right now, one of the things that I'm focused on is I'm looking at the conference and association market. So I'm in front of a lot of people from a lot of different industries. So I'm doing a number of different keynotes right now in various state national associations. So that's one way, as well as coming into a company, doing that 90-minute, 2-hour, half-day training, whether it's on customer experience. Right now, I'm doing a lot on workplace culture because that, interestingly enough, and I'll close with this, you asked about how to deliver that optimal customer experience. Well, I firmly believe that it starts with the culture of your organization, because that's your foundation. And most companies don't succeed in delivering that customer experience because their culture is not set.
Right.
And that foundation is not strong, and they don't have the right people in place. They're not training them the right way. And now they don't realize why they're not keeping clients. I tell people almost any of us can get a client. If you, in your business, offer your services for $10 an hour, I guarantee you're going to get a client.
Yeah.
However, can you keep that client?
Right. And by the way, keeping that client is a lot more rewarding financially because it costs less to get business from a returning client than it is to get a new one. And it's that returning one that is probably also telling their friends.
Right, because hopefully there are those brand ambassadors that I mentioned who now are doing the marketing for you. And once you do that, you've got a business for life.
So, Bob, right now, I know you think this podcast is over, and it is not, because we're about to start the lightning round of questions.
Oh, awesome. I was waiting for that.
But first, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
We're going to let our listeners who, they could have hit pause to go to the bathroom because that's how this technology works. But this way, they can hit pause at a convenient time, at a convenient place to pause the podcast before its exciting conclusion in the lightning round. So hit pause or don't, but we'll be right back. Hey folks, thanks for listening to our podcast. I hope you've been enjoying it. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about Cover My Six. For my fellow veterans out there, and for those of you in law enforcement, you already know what Cover My Six means. And for the rest of you out there, it means cover my butt, and that's what we do for our clients. I've been litigating business cases for many years, and here's what I've learned about them. First, they're not fun for my clients. Even when lawyers knock it out of the park for them, business owners and professionals in litigation find it stressful, distracting, time-consuming, and expensive. Second, I believe almost all business lawsuits and investigations are totally preventable. Third, almost every business lawsuit and investigation has focused on some combination of 6 key relationships: those with customers, vendors, employees, shareholders, insurance companies, and technology. Knowing these 3 things, we created Cover My Six to optimize those 6 areas for businesses of all sizes. We create and facilitate the company's key documents, and we optimize their policies and practices in those 6 areas so that their owners and employees can focus their time and attention and money where they should, on making and selling their products and growing their business, not on lawyers and courtrooms and lawsuits. So go to covermysix.com to learn more about this service. I'm really proud of it, and there's nothing else out there that's like it. Our clients love it too. They get security and peace of mind from it, and I know you will too. Go to covermysix.com to learn more. All right. Bob Pacanovsky.
Uh-oh.
Here comes the lightning round questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
Usually Molly Gebler. Do you know Molly, by the way?
Just from the pictures.
Okay.
From the podcast.
So she's usually the better half of the lightning round. And so pretend I'm Molly asking Molly's questions.
Okay.
All right. Molly's first lightning round question is, what are you binging?
I just heard about I was talking with my brother, and he said you have to binge the new Jack Ryan series.
Ooh, interesting.
So we're going to start that this week.
Okay. You'll have to let me know how that is.
Yeah.
I take that back. I know how the first 20 minutes of the first episode is.
Okay.
And I'm not going to comment on it. But I hope you enjoy it.
Good.
I just binged a series on Netflix. It's a 4-part series about this murder that happened in Israel, and it's called Shadow of Truth.
Ooh, okay.
It's fascinating.
Really?
It's fascinating. It's disturbing. But it was I would recommend, if anyone out there likes like murder shows, which I don't, by the way. I hate them,
right.
But my girlfriend really likes them a lot. And I started, and you'd have to be okay also with watching everything in subtitles because it's all in Hebrew.
Okay.
But man, it is just it's a bizarre, fascinating, compelling, disturbing, but very thought-provoking series. So
Interesting.
Okay. The second lightning round question that Molly would be asking if she were here right now is, what's on your mind?
Wow. Well, so there's a handful of things on my mind. One is, I'm always looking for, ways to get in front of potential clients. So I'm always trying to market. However, secondly, too, what's on my mind is I have my parents as well as an aunt. We just moved them into a senior community about 6 weeks ago. And they're doing really well with it. It's a great community. But right now I'm one of those people so I'm the primary person that's taking a look at everything and keeping track of everything. So that's always on my mind right now.
Do you know about the lantern?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that on your list? You should think about those guys.
You know what? I actually had a chance to sit down with Gene.
Oh yeah,
and talk to him and went out to the one in Geauga County. It's right. It's right there on the border of Solon and Geauga. I mean,
okay,
it's gorgeous, beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful place.
Yeah, Gene is one of my favorite humans on the planet, and a former podcast guest. And he does things at the Lantern that are so cutting edge, particularly with memory care.
Well, and in fact, you introduced us.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, good.
So I did. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy I introduced you. Yeah, he's outstanding. He's a fantastic dude. Molly's third lightning round question is, to finish this sentence, a perfect day for me is.
A perfect day for me would be spending that time with my wife, having a great meal. We love to hike, and then hopefully, talking to our son who now lives in Hollywood, California, and spending some quality time on the phone with him.
Cool. What's he doing in Hollywood?
So he and his and his buddy moved out there a few years ago to try to make it big in the entertainment music industry, but they're making some inroads in that. But right now he's got a great job. He's working in the media world of selling media and events and so forth. So
good.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then finish the sentence. I hope I never have to hear this song again.
Well, I don't know if we have enough time because after catering 7,000 meetings, events, receptions, there were probably hundreds of songs that I wish I would never hear again.
Right.
The one that pops into my mind is the Macarena.
Me too. See, I actually don't like that lightning round question because now I'm going to be singing it in my head. And
you and me both.
Yeah.
Thank you, Molly.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Molly. Okay, and we have a question called the Christie, which is named after Christy George, who is also a podcast guest, and she has a magazine called Neighbors.
Okay,
and she is she's a professional question asker.
Didn't know that was such a title.
And so she owns this magazine and she writes in it and she interviews people for a living.
Okay.
If you could interview any person who ever lived, who would it be?
Wow, that's a
lightning round questions are no joke, Bob.
No, they're not.
They're serious business.
Well, so the first person that actually comes to my mind. For a number of reasons, is Joe Gibbs, former coach of the Washington Redskins.
Okay.
A couple reasons, and a couple reasons for that. Number one is Joe, first and foremost, is a strong man of faith, as I am, and I've read his books, and just love how he thinks and really puts his faith first. Secondly, he was a coach, and as much as I'm a Browns fan, and I'm a big Browns fan, but for whatever reason, I was 6 years old. It must have been the uniforms or whatever, but I fell in love with the Washington Redskins, and they're still my favorite team, and
we will forgive you for that.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the Molly half of the lightning round and the Christie. So here's my lightning round.
Wait, there's more.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The lightning round usually is the longest segment of our podcast, hence the irony of calling it the lightning round.
Right. Okay.
You're shipwrecked on a desert island for a minimum of 3 months. Could be the rest of your life. You don't know.
All right.
You know it will be at least 3 months. You may bring with you any single author's entire bibliography. Who do you bring?
Wow.
You're sweating a lot today, Bob. These are difficult questions, I know.
They are. John Gordon.
Ooh, what's he write?
John Gordon is a business parable author.
Oh, okay.
Writes some great stuff on leadership, service, culture, and they're all intertwined in very, very powerful parables, business parables.
Interesting. So you might never come off of this island.
I know. I may not.
To practice any of these parables. You like John Gordon that much.
Oh, well, yeah.
I gotta pick that up. I gotta read some John Gordon. Same desert island, same shipwreck, same amount of time, which is unknown, but at least 3 months. You may bring with you any single musician's or band's entire discography. Yeah. Who do you bring?
Easy choice.
Ooh, all right. I can't. Let me buckle up for this. Hold on a second.
Now, this will surprise you. I guarantee you.
Okay.
But there's a story behind it, too. So I would bring Herb Alpert.
Herb Alpert. I'm surprised because I don't know who Herb Alpert is.
So Herb Alpert, who now is 83 years old, he is a trumpeter, because I used to play the trumpet, and of course it was Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. And the story behind it is when I was 3 or 4 years old, my mom has told me, and this was in the late 1960s, so Herb Alpert had TV specials. I had a toy trumpet that I would mimic his moves on TV, this toy trumpet. And then, to date myself even further, when I was 10 years old, I was in 4th grade, he was at the Front Row Theater. Remember the Front Row Theater?
I do.
Yeah. So,
whatever happened to the Front Row Theater?
I think it's gone. No,
it's gone. Right?
It's long gone there somewhere. So get this. So all right, now picture yourself 10 years old. Now, at 10 or 11 years, I'm in 5th grade. I just started taking up the trumpet now in 4th grade in my grade school. So he comes to the front row with his band, the Tijuana Brass, for a concert. So I'm sitting there waiting for the show to start with my aunt, who's also my godmother. And this usher comes up to us and then says, "Are you Robert Pacanovsky?" And yes. Well, Herb Alpert would like to meet you at intermission. What? And here my mom had written to the front row, had told that story about how I idolized him and played a trumpet and blah, blah, blah. And he agreed to meet me. So at intermission of the show, my aunt and I went back, got to meet him and the band, got to play his trumpet.
Wow.
And and right now I have about 17 of his albums.
Huh. Does he still play?
He does.
Does he still tour?
Last year, he came to the Kent stage, and my wife and I went to see him. Just a great show. And the fact that he's 83 years old and he's still touring is phenomenal.
It is extremely unusual, and we've been doing the lightning round now for I think this is episode 76 or something like that. And most of the time we've been doing lightning round questions. This is the first time I've been stumped on both answers. That's highly unusual. I consider myself to be somewhat of a man of the world, Bob, and yet both names were a mystery to me.
Well, make sure you Google both of them. Herb Alpert, back in the 60s, he had, and I should know this off the top of my head, but his albums, he had like 4 albums go number 1. I mean, like the Beatles were the only other group that achieved that success in a short period of time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Herb Alpert. Number 3 of the Alex Gertzberg portion of the lightning round portion of the podcast. What is the habit or routine that you do on a daily basis that gives you the most mileage?
So it's and I've been doing this now since August of last year. So I guess it's a habit now.
Okay,
so
that counts.
Yeah,
qualifies.
Yeah, or so I guess it's a routine. So 6 days a week, I'm up at between 5 and 5:15 every morning. Go downstairs to my basement. I have a Bible study that I do every morning. Takes about, now I have 2. So I have 1, but this starting January 1st, I just started a new daily study from Tony Dungy, former Colts coach.
Yeah.
So I do that, and then after that I do a light workout, about 20, 30 minutes of either bicycling on a stationary bike or just doing some light workout with dumbbells. So 6 days a week. And for me, and here's the key, because now I've gotten better, much better at this, is I spend the first hour of my day doing that before I do any social media.
Yeah.
My phone doesn't go on until I get done with that, and it helps me really center my day.
I really like that. That's a very common the Bible study or the prayer or the meditation is a very common daily routine that gives people the most mileage, and often exercises in there too. And I just want to comment on it for a second, because I think that one reason why so many of us get value from that, and in my case it's meditating, is and when I do it, I try to bring a gratitude meditation in there. To remind myself of all the incredible things in my life.
Absolutely,
right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think prayer does the same thing.
Yes.
It makes you realize that there's much more than just you in this world.
Yeah.
And getting quiet and getting perspective at the beginning of your day really, I think for a lot of us, sets a very positive tone. And especially, I like the way you said it's before I see it, I look at any social media, or before there are inputs coming into my brain.
Right.
There's a settling and there's a perspective that happens. And I just, I talk to so many people who say, the first thing I do is I reach for my phone and I read my emails. And God bless you if that's what works for you.
It might work, yeah.
But man, I mean, try it the other way. And whether you are religious or atheist or anything in between, there is this silence that you can choose to enjoy and choose to participate in, where your only goal really is to listen and observe and notice and realize that that there's this swirl of life around you and you are a bit tiny player in it,
Amen. Yeah. No, you're right.
Okay. The final lightning round question, which I consider to be the most meaningful and compelling, is, what is an embarrassing thing about yourself that no one else knows? And you save this one for last, huh? Take as long as you need, Bob.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Oh, boy.
We have locked the doors. You are not allowed to leave until this question is answered as honestly as possible. And we will fact check. And I don't know what that means.
And since you're a professional service firm, specializing in law, I highly believe that. So
actually, I already know what the answer is before you even get
okay, good. Well, so then you just want to say it because that would be good. Boy, what's something embarrassing? Wow, man, oh man. Boy, yeah, this is a good one. This
I can give you a lifeline if you want one, but only if you cannot think of anything.
No, trust me, I'm sure I can think of something. That's not a challenge.
I bet right now your wife is listening to this going, oh man, I know like 20 of these.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tell this one, Bob.
Yeah. Well, okay, so as I was going to say, so I had this one in mind, but then I'm thinking, well, gosh, there has to be something from my college days that I'm sure I can conjure up from nights of, Thursday night partying at...
Which, the statute of limitations is probably long expired at this point.
Yeah, it has. There's two, but one from my college days is... So I was dressed for Halloween as the character that Billy Crystal played on Saturday Night Live, Fernando Lamas. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I can actually still do
the
impersonation.
Well, now you have to do it.
That's what I figured. So, Alex, let me tell you something right now. Now wait for it. But you look marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. And of course I know that because it's better to look good than feel good. And I don't look very good, darling, but so do you.
That was
Thank you. So I did that.
That was outstanding.
Walking around the campus of the University of Akron, dressed with the gray wig, and it was a huge hit.
Oh gosh, I haven't heard that. I remember watching that live on Saturday nights. That is a blast from the past. It was pretty dead on, by the way. That was a good impression.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so you had a second one in mind? Never tell a lawyer that there's another option, because we will always say, "What's the other one?"
Well, all right. So the second one actually is actually business related.
Okay,
and I tell this story in my seminars. It's part of the 750 black tie formula. So I actually and so this was the second restaurant. Wasn't working anyway. We were probably in the throes of going downhill, and packed restaurant, short-staffed. Had a good friend of mine who was there with some other people, and they'd come in before. I had made them the special dessert. Well, long story short, they call me over wanting to make this special dessert again, and I just blew up at them. I'm like, listen, I said, well, what are you, crazy? I mean, you see how busy we are? I don't have time for this tonight. I can't believe you would ask me that. Just made a really not a great scene. He did forgive me, but boy, I felt terrible at that and embarrassed. My staff saw it. Wasn't a good look, but I learned from it.
Okay. All right.
So, one fun, one serious.
No, well, listen. You answered the questions. You've successfully completed the lightning round.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I know you were sweating there.
I was.
Yeah,
this was tough.
I know. It can't all be fun and games, Bob.
No.
It can't all just be, hey, tell me about your business.
No. Hey, well, no. I mean, these were really good questions.
Yeah. So, folks, that was Bob Pacanovsky. Bob, you were an outstanding guest. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you. And I have something for
appreciate
you.
it. Ooh, yes, you do.
And
Molly. Molly will be very happy. Very sad that she didn't receive the...
Well, and there's one other person, too.
Nellie. Oh, look at Nellie. Yeah, she's the producer.
Yeah.
How about that? Bringing gifts for all three of us.
So I have...
Let's see what we got here.
So this is...
Oh, my goodness. Look at this. It's a black... Wow, this is like a heavy-duty mug, too. Yeah. This is a travel mug, kids. Are you delivering the black tie experience? Look at that. It's like it's a little spill proof too. It looks like it'll keep my hot things hot, my cold things cold, and you know what too? I actually really needed another one of these because I just broke my other one. Oh, it
twists.
It twists.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
This is outstanding.
I appreciate the opportunity to be on this. I've been I've been listening to them. I thoroughly enjoy them. I don't listen to all of them, but the ones I've listened to quite a few, and and love the guests. I was like, man, gosh, this would be cool to be on this.
Yeah.
And
well, that was really,
here I am.
That was fun and that was easy, and I can't say that for all of them. And you know who you are, people. No, that was really good, Bob. Thanks you very much.
Alex, my pleasure.
For joining. Folks, you're going to want to go to bobpacanovsky.com and check out the black tie experience. And we will see. Oh, and here, do me a favor, people. Listen. Go to the Best Podcast Ever and click on subscribe. Or go to iTunes and rate us and leave some friendly comments. No unfriendly ones, please. Look, if you've listened this far, you either really like Bob or you really like me. I'm guessing it's Bob, but still,
I don't know. I think it's you.
Listen, you've stuck with me here for this long. Go to iTunes, give us a whatever the highest ranking is, and then leave a comment. Or you can go on Facebook and click like, or I think Spotify, YouTube, any of those, whatever, however you listen to podcasts, check us out. This is episode 76, Bob. We've done this 76 times.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm really proud of it, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we get better as we go. I think I could be totally wrong. I could be regressing. Hopefully.
Well, I hope not.
Hopefully I'm not regressing.
That's not the case here.
No, I think, you know what, to your point, it's one of the things that I do in my world where I really enjoy the time spent doing it, just like you and speaking.
Yeah, I can tell.
So anyway, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for following along. For those of you that have been with us for 76 episodes or any part of them, thank you for listening to this one, and we will see you next time.